This is Carrigan and Company. Why have a job when you can have a purpose? When you work for the Northeast Arc, you're joining a team dedicated to creating inclusive communities for people with disabilities. As an organization that supports more than 10,000 people each year, it's easy to find a role that fits your skills and passion. Become part of an organization that was named one of the best employers in Massachusetts. Visit ne-arc.org/careers to view job opportunities and apply. That's ne-arc.org/careers. Hi, everybody. This is Kim on this week's episode. Why do people run? We'll find out just before the Boston Marathon. This is Carrigan and Company.
Carrigan and Company is here for you. Yes, Carrigan and Company is here for you.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Carrigan and Company. Today we're talking about why we run. Well, we don't run, but other people do. And we have three fabulous guests. Guests that I think you're going to recognize and guests who do a lot of running in their life. And we're going to find out why. But keeping me company today is the one and only Dave McGillivary. Of course, he is the director of the Boston Marathon, amongst many other things, including a marathoner himself. And it's so good to see you. We're just catching up a little bit off the air. Hadn't seen you for a while.
Kim, it's so great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while either, so thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So here we are, just under 3 weeks from the Boston Marathon. So I'm always anxious to hear, where are you in the planning when we get to, about 3 weeks out?
Well, normally what I tend to do is trick myself and, the team and say, pretend the race is 2 weeks before it is.
Ah,
and
very
then
smart.
Get everything done that you can leading up to 2 weeks to go as if the race is going to happen that day.
Yep.
Then you have 2 more weeks to sort of either prevent fires, which is what I like to do, not put them out, but if you have to put out some fires, you can have time to put out fires, or just deal with last-minute things that are unexpected that come your way. If you're really busy doing things you could have done a week or two before, that's when you get trapped.
Absolutely. How long have you been the director?
This will be 38 years.
Wow, Dave, that's fantastic. I mean, I don't know the Boston Marathon without you. I can't even imagine. I don't think anybody really does.
You're younger than 38 years old?
It means I've only lived in Boston for about 35 years.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
That makes me think, you must be able to do it in your sleep. But there has to be challenges each year, and certainly challenges since, of course, the tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not add water, have soup, or take an eraser out, change the date, and do the same thing over and over again. Although, this is such a traditional race with such, customs that occur every single year, same course, about the same field size. So a lot of it is similar to years past. At the same time, it's an ever-changing world out there.
Absolutely.
And so is this industry. And so we have to, stay ahead of the curve. So we're always looking to improve, to enhance, to create a better experience for all the participants. I mean, this is the holy grail of marathoning, of road racing in the world. So we don't take that for granted. We recognize that we have to be at the top of our game and put on the best possible show known to man to make sure that these people get what they invested in this to get here.
What keeps you up at night when you think about the
weather?
Really?
The only thing. It's just the weather. There are unfortunate situations like in 2013, but usually everything is pretty well managed and it's a well-oiled machine. Our greatest asset is the experience and the expertise of the team. Because a lot of these folks who are part of the organizing committee have been here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. They know their area, their discipline better than anyone else on the planet. So a lot of confidence going in with the team. But it's Mother Nature. And you never know. Right. And no matter what the forecast is, you wake up that day and it could be totally different than what they forecasted a week out. And so we've had infernos. We've had nor'easters. We've had a little bit of everything.
Sure.
And so I remember in 2012, it was 89 degrees at the start in Hopkinton. I get up on the starters platform, and I looked at all the runners, 30,000 of them, and I said, hey, we're a team. There's you and there's us. But we can't fit all of you in our medical tent. You have to take personal responsibility. And they pretty much did.
Yeah.
But that's what it all boils down to is it's a team effort, and we'll take care of them if something happens, but at the same time, they really need to back off if the conditions are such that it could be a little bit risky for them.
Yeah, Mother Nature, she's the non-team member, isn't she? She just sort of does her own thing for sure. To put on the Boston Marathon, and you just said, it's just the premium. It is the mountain that everybody wants to climb. Seems like to me that's a year-round full-time job, but you do so much more than the Boston Marathon, which is amazing to me, Dave. It really is. And I know that you're not shy to tell people that you're 70, which is amazing. No one would ever guess that. You are a marathoner yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's so impressive, the kinds of marathons you've run. Number one, you're about to run your 53rd Boston Marathon, which is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. A guy who puts it on and then runs it, sometimes runs it while everyone's running it, sometimes runs it at night after everyone's run it. Mm-hmm. But that's just the beginning. That just scratches the surface for the involvement that you have had. How many Ironmen have you done?
I did it in 1980, and then I did it again in 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, and 89. And then in 2014, I was diagnosed with severe coronary artery disease, genetics, hereditary. And I said, I need a magnet. I need to go after something else. I learned at the age of 63 that just because you're fit doesn't mean you're healthy.
Right.
I always thought it did. But I needed something. And so I trained really hard and went back to Hawaii and did my 9th. And then when I turned 70 this past August, I said, I need something else. And went back and did my 10th in this past October.
That's unbelievable. Let me talk about what you just brought up, because I had a feeling that's where this would lead us. I, too, would assume, and I think everyone would assume, that someone who runs as much as you do, I feel confident, in addition to running, because you run so much, obviously you live a healthy lifestyle. That had to have been a shock to you, because it's a shock to me, and I think to anybody who hears, that you had heart disease. Mm.
Well, it's in the DNA.
Right.
Both grandfathers died of heart attacks. My dad had aortic stenosis. My brother died of a stroke. My sister had triple bypass, and my other brother has 2 stents. It's right there staring at me in the face. However, I always thought I was the exception to the rule, mm-hmm. that I was going to avoid this. And I was out running one day, and I could feel some difficulty in my chest, and it persisted and persisted and persisted. And I went to Mass General Hospital, and they did all these tests on me, echocardiogram, stress tests, EKGs, everything. And they all said the same thing. What? There's nothing wrong with you. I said, yes, there is. I can't breathe when I'm running. You got to give me the big boy test. You got to look under the hood. So they gave me a CAT scan and then an angiogram, and the doctor walks in. He goes, there, and there. I said, there what? He says, there, you have severe coronary artery disease. I said, no, really, you're looking at the wrong film. And he says, no, that's you. And I said, well, do me a favor. He said, what? I said, zip it up. He said, what? I said, don't tell anyone. He said, why? I said, because it's a ding in my armor. I don't want anyone to know. I'm supposed to be this fit guy. Everyone's going to think all this running I've done caused this, and I know it didn't. And then all of a sudden it leaked out. People started writing to me saying, I had the same symptoms. I went to a hospital. I walked out with 3 stents. You saved my life. And that's when I realized, I have to go on a campaign to let people know that this can happen to them. So I said to the doctor, I said, I got a question to ask you. He said, what? I said, is this reversible? He said, well, depends. I said, depends on what? He said, depends on the person. I said, well, you're looking at him. I'm over here. And he said, with your discipline, I think you can have an impact in your own illness. And I said, well, sign me up. I changed everything.
Okay, so walk me through this. Yeah, how did you do it?
Well, listen, we all break the rules. I don't care who you are, right? I go out for a 20-mile run. I come home. I have some ice cream or whatever, because guess why? I earned it. Well, I didn't think back then it would have any negative effect. Well, 50 years of that, it's going to add up.
Yeah.
It's going to add up. And so for me, it was more a matter of like, okay, what do I do? So I changed my diet, nutrition, my sleep habits even. I always thought sleep was overrated. I still do. I want to get the most out of every day. So I don't like the fact that we have to sleep, even though I know we do. I don't like the fact that we have to. And then stress, it was right out of the bombings and everything else going on. So I changed everything. And then I said, I'm going back to Hawaii to do the Ironman again. I called the Ironman. I said, can I do the race? They said, you can do the race, but you got to get a note from your doctor. I said, what? A note from my doctor? I never got a note from my doctor in my life. They said, well, we heard about you, and we don't want you going down in the lava fields. I went to my doctor at Mass General. I said, can I have a note? He said, no. I said, why? He said, I don't want you going down in the lava fields either. I said, well, what's it going to take? He said, we got to do another angiogram. Okay, fine. We did it. He says, oh, my goodness. I said, what? He says, you reverse your own coronary artery disease by over 40%. I said, can I have my note? He gave me the note. I went to Hawaii, did the Ironman again. So and then I went and did the 777 with Becca and some other folks. And when I got back from that, all of a sudden I could feel some difficulty in my chest again. I thought I beat it. I went back to Mass General. They did an angiogram again, and they said, you have 95% blockage in your main artery. So I said, how did that happen?
Right.
It has to be genetics. Right. So last part of the story is I said to the doctor, well, what are my options? He said, well, we can do nothing, but you have to live a sedentary life. I said, cross that off. He said, we can stent it, but it's in a real risky place. I said, cross that off. Or we can do open heart surgery. I said, cross that off. He says, you run out of options. I said, well, let me ask you this. There's this race that I've run a few times in April in Boston in 6 months. If I have the surgery, what do you think? He gave me the best possible answer. He didn't say, no, I don't think you can do it, or yes, I think you can. He said, I'd be extremely disappointed if you couldn't do it. I said, let's go. I had open heart triple bypass surgery. And there was a delicate balance between recovery and not being foolish in training, doing both. Because not many people do that.
Right.
You know, have open heart surgery and a few months later go run a marathon. And I said, and I had to learn on my own. It was trial and error. There aren't a lot of books out there on this. And I was able to, 6 months later, run my 47th Boston Marathon at the time. So, I mean, and again, my whole motto, in Massachusetts, we have a public safety campaign that says, if you see something, say something. My campaign is, if you feel something, say something.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not invincible, even though we might think we are.
Absolutely. Have you had any problems since?
No, I've run 15 marathons since and done Ironman, and my breathing problem has gone away. And
Doctor says something's going to get you, but it won't be the ticker, right?
I don't know what it's going to get. Hope it's old age.
Yeah.
I always said, I don't mind getting older. I just don't want to get old.
Yeah.
I'm not getting old.
Right. I'm
not getting old.
I know, and you're not getting old. That is for certain. Let me ask you, why do you run?
Well, it's changed over the years. When I first started running, I ran because I wanted to be a professional athlete here in Boston, but I had a challenge, well, vertically challenged. So I was always the last one picked and always the last one cut. So I started to run because no one could cut you from running. And that's why I started running. And then running was more a competitive thing, more competing against myself than anyone else. But I was very competitive with everyone else at the time.
Sure.
Then as I got older, running became more about health and fitness. Yeah. And so I ran to stay in shape and to try to stay healthy.
Right. Had that family history.
You're
going to run away from it.
And I said, I got to stay healthy. Now it's even different. And you're going to think this is crazy. I run now to think. What's he talking about? Most people, when they run with iPods and listen to music and stuff. I run with a voice recorder every single day. I have for 40 years. And I record, when I'm out on the road, I have my best thoughts and best ideas. I direct the Boston Marathon by going out for a run and recording things on my voice recorder that I might never have thought of if I was home, or if I thought of, I'd forget. Yeah. And I record them all. I get back to my home office, write them all down, and crank them out. And so anytime I have an issue with anything, or I want to create something or develop something, what do? Go out for a run.
You take a run.
And it comes. I haven't missed a day of running now. A friend of mine called me up a little bit ago and he said, hey, you ever miss a day of running during the year? Do you have a streak going? I said, right. No. He said, do you think you can run a whole year without missing a day? I said, do I think I can or do I want to?
Right.
And he says, no. He hung up. A year later, he calls me. He says, "Did you do it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You ran every single day without missing a day this past year." And I said, "Yeah." He said, a mile. I said, "No, 3.5 miles or more." So then he said, "Do me a favor." I said, "What?" He says, "Take tomorrow off." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you'll never stop." Well, that was 4 years and 2 weeks ago.
And
I
you haven't missed a day yet.
Yeah, I don't know why, but
Let me ask you quickly here. Give me a story about a time. I say quickly only, we're going to continue our conversation, but we're going to take a break because we're going to bring a guest in that I know someone you are very fond of. But tell me a quick story about a time that you thought you were going to have to quit.
Well, here's one time when I was running across the United States in 1978 for the Jimmy Fund from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Mass, where I finished in Fenway Park, where I wanted to play second base. And if I wasn't going to play in Fenway, I'm going to run in Fenway. And I was in the desert, and I was running 15 miles into the run. I was averaging 45, 50 miles every single day for 3 months. And all of a sudden, my left knee went. Just the vastus medialis muscle in my leg just gone. I thought, I'm never going to make it. You know, I'm going to have to quit, and that's the end of my running career. I thought it was over right then and there. My support crew picked me up, drove me to an emergency room, a hospital, 40 miles away. The doctor looked at my knee, and he says, "Well, what do you think caused it?" And I said, "Well, I was out jogging." And it just, because if I said, "Well, I'm running 45, 50 miles a day," and he said, "Well, guess what? Don't do that anymore, and it'll go away." And I said, "No, this isn't going to work." So I said to the guys, "Bring me back to where I dropped out, and I got to continue. I have to continue." And as they're bringing me back, I'm looking in the desert at the road, and it's severely crowned like this.
Yeah.
And I'm doing all my miles on one side of the road, 40, 50 miles a day on one side of the road. So
you're
I'm
on the
unbalanced. Yes. And all of a sudden I said, that's it. That's it. If I alternate each side of the road, although I don't like running with traffic, I always like to see what's
Coming
about to
at
hit
you.
me.
Uh-huh.
And so I alternated. It went away. So what I learned out on the road like that is when I'm on the verge of an injury or whatever, I don't necessarily focus on the problem. I focus on the cause.
Yeah.
What's causing this?
Yeah.
You fix the cause, the problem goes away. You deal just with the problem, it comes back.
Wow.
And that's what I learned, and that's why I'm so lucky. I've run about 165,000 miles since all of that, and no injuries at all.
It's a good story. It's a great story. Dave McGillivary is my guest. He is keeping me company today. We are talking about running. And we've got so much more to do here on Carrigan and Company. So we'll take a quick break if that's okay with you, my friend. We'll hear from our sponsors, and we'll have much more coming up on the other side of the break. This is Carrigan and Company.
Have you tried Rumson Rum yet? This smooth, sweet, memorable rum is distilled in the Caribbean, barreled aged, and then blended, finished, and bottled in Salem, Massachusetts. Rumson's offers 4 unique blends: Gold, Spice, Grand Reserved, and Coffee. Before you start to sip or mix your next cocktail, ask yourself, do I want to enjoy New England's most awarded rum brand? If the answer is yes, the answer is Rumson's. Get Rumson's rum at liquor stores or ask for it by name at your favorite restaurant. Rumson's. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Carrigan and Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Welcome back, everybody, to Carrigan and Company. So good to have you with us. And, of course, keeping me company today is Dave McGillivray. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And we're about to interview someone who is a face that many of us have seen, certainly on television. She's with NBC Sports Boston, and we're so happy to have Trenni Casey with us. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
And we're having you, we said off the top of the show, kind of the thing, my producer and I always come up with sort of a theme for the shows. And today is Why Do I Run? And you're somebody who, like Dave, this you certainly have in common, runners. Why do you run?
Well, I used to run because it was the only sport I was good at. I discovered, just like Dave, I discovered in my 20s, I can kind of run sort of, not fast, but fast enough. Like I started qualifying for Boston marathons, and I was like, this is something that, I wasn't able to do as a kid. I wasn't good at basketball. My sister was a gymnast. My brother played football. I'm like, this is something I'm good at. But as I've gotten older and qualifying for Boston has gotten gotten not just harder by time standards, but harder for me as I've gotten older, I kind of had to shift my mindset. And so now I am running for the first time. I ran for charity once in the Boston Marathon, but that was just so I could run in the Boston Marathon. This time, my big run is for multiple sclerosis. So now I'm sort of running for something that's very close to my heart.
Well, I want to get into that because I know you're doing it for your aunt, and that's really terrific. But how many times have you run Boston?
5 times.
5
times.
Yeah,
my first was 2010, and I also did 2012 when it was like 87 degrees.
And we just had that conversation about that. Yeah. Dave was saying the thing that keeps him up at night is Mother Nature, which I can certainly understand that. That is for sure. Your experience.
Oh my God, it's incredible. It's my favorite. I'm not just saying this because you're here. It's my favorite marathon in the entire world. Like to run from point to point through all of these small little towns and then end up in a big city. There is nothing like it. It is a literal holiday here in Boston, and it's the gold standard. I mean, for me, to qualify for Boston is my greatest athletic accomplishment. To have the opportunity to reach a standard that not everybody can reach. A lot of people run marathons now, and I love that it is a sport that you can be a 12-minute miler or you can be a 6-minute, 5-minute miler if you're an elite athlete, but it's open to everyone. But to be in that small percentage that can reach the number that you need to line up among qualifiers is just, it's definitely a humble brag.
How do you feel about that, Dave, about people who try to run it without being a qualifier?
I think we have a delicate balance.
Yeah.
80% qualify, 20% don't. But those 20% have earned the right to be there just as much as the qualifiers have. And in a certain respect, have it harder because they got to raise a ton of money in addition to doing all the training.
Sure.
And last year, we collectively, all the charities combined, raised over $70 million.
Jeez.
And it was interesting because when I had done the run across the country for the Jimmy Fund, I said to myself, I don't know that I can do this on my own, like as a personal. How am I going to run 45, 50 miles a day if I don't have a magnet?
Right.
I have to do it for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And that's why I did it for the Jimmy Fund, which is one of the first times anyone had combined running with raising money for cancer research. So same thing with you. When you were doing it, and as you are about to do another amazing trek, it's that greater purpose that can keep you on the road. Whereas if you weren't doing it that way, it's just a lot easier to kind of bail.
It's easy to say my knee hurts.
Yep.
Let's talk about this summer because I know you announced this, I think probably last fall, didn't you, that you were thinking about doing this or you were going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so let's get the backstory. You have this, it's early July in Wisconsin. And there's a backstory. You're running for MS.
Yes. So the charity is called MS Run the U.S. And like Dave, it started with someone who ran across the country by herself. Ashley Schneider ran in, I believe it was 2010. She was like 25 years old. Her mother had MS, and she said she wanted to do something in her honor. So she set a big fundraising goal, and she set a goal to run. But that time, the route was San Francisco to New York City. She ran it by herself, lived out of an RV with her partner at the time, her boyfriend at the time, and completed it on her own. But she didn't raise as much money as she wanted to. She's 25. That's a hard thing to do. Raising money is really difficult. And so she pivoted. So within 2 years, she pivoted and she turned it into a relay. So now it's 21 segments across the country. Each person needs to raise at least $10,000. And you have to prove that you can run the miles and raise the money, and then you're chosen and you have to interview. It's a whole process. And so we each passed the baton city after city after city all summer long. So I've known Ashley growing up in Wisconsin. I've known Ashley since she ran. I helped her raise money the first time around 15 years ago. And I always knew I wanted to run in honor of my aunt, Sandy. She was my godmother. She's my mom's my mom's sister, second oldest in the family. And I didn't really know her that well growing up. She was diagnosed with MS. I was probably 4, I barely remember. I was 4 or 5. And it was a very aggressive, progressive form of MS. You can see, I have photos now of her pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis. And you can see it in her face. You can see it in the way her body carries, her muscular control. She was in a wheelchair by the time I was in high school, and she passed away when I was a freshman in college in November of 1990. 1995. And so when I was looking at times that might work in my life, I was like, 2025 might work. And that would be 30 years almost to the day since she had passed. So I targeted 2025 to run across Wisconsin. So my segment is 161 miles over 6 days across the state of Wisconsin. And I'll finish in Milwaukee, where her sisters both still live. My cousins can be there. My sister, my brother, who would be her great niece and nephew, will be able to be there. And so I can do it for her.
So is that 161 part of this relay?
Yep. We're all one right after another. So it starts on April 1st, is the first running of it. In Santa Monica, California.
Yeah, okay.
And the woman, the people who run this, it's great that I'm doing it, but I'm a perfectly healthy 47, almost 48-year-old, right? The woman who's starting this relay today is not only living with MS, but she's a breast cancer survivor.
Oh, my goodness.
We have a number of runners that are living with MS that are training for this. And some, I'm like, geez, you are booking it in your runs. I'm like, look, we all have a Strava group, and I'm like, boy, I got to step it up. These people are getting chemo treatments to keep their MS in check, and they're running 7-8 minute miles still. It just is such a testament to what you can do in the face of something really difficult.
So how many miles a day will you personally be running? You're running for a week?
For a week. So it's 6 days.
So you're 25, a marathon?
So it's going to be a little bit more than a marathon. Yeah. So my plan is, and of course plans can blow up. Anyone who's a runner knows that. But my plan is to run at least 30 miles a day for the first 2 to 3 days. And then maybe knock it down on day 3 or day 4 to 29, 28, just mentally. I would like to have 15 miles or fewer on the last day, because there's a big party, because it's Milwaukee and it's the home of the foundation. They have a big finish line party, and they have a no rules relay that day. So people can also raise smaller amounts of money and just get in on the fundraising and get out there. They can bike, they can scooter, they can walk, they can run, any way to get out there and be active for MS.
So Trenni, are you the only one running it across?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how it works. It's one person who realized. So they had to get somebody who could come through all of the states.
All of the states.
Who will you hand it off to? Do you know?
I will hand it off to, I believe her name is Christy. I think she is running Milwaukee to Valparaiso, Indiana. Okay. And it's actually very cool. She reached out to me privately and said she lives in Texas. She's a teacher in Austin, but her family is from Wisconsin.
Great.
And she's going to come spend some time with her parents leading up. And she said, I'll have some taper runs, so I'll come run with you while you're in this sort of, western suburbs of Milwaukee. I was like, that's great, because I don't really have a lot of people I think who are going to be running with me. My husband's going to go with, so he'll be there. He's not much of a runner. He's got bad hips from hockey. So he runs 5 miles a year.
That's okay.
How many runners in the relay?
21.
21.
And they're all doing a similar distance, 100+ miles?
Yeah, I think
at the
same time.
Consistently.
Yep. I think the lowest, and I use air quotations for that, the lowest distance is 150. I think the longest is 205 miles. I believe it's the second leg, and I'm sure Ashley will correct me when she listens to this if it's wrong. It's from Barstow, California, I believe, to Las Vegas, Nevada. And I think that one's long because there's just nowhere in between. There's nowhere. Right. It's literally just desert.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So now, Dave obviously said Mother Nature is an issue.
Yes. July
in Wisconsin.
I know people think, how cold can it, or how warm can it be? And I'm like, it's like Boston. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky. But it can also be chilly and rainy. You can get anything. So
how are you preparing for that when you're, when you live here in Boston, right? You're leading in.
Well, not ideally, I guess, unless you really like hot weather. Most likely by the time I get to May and June, which is the bulk of my training, it should be fairly warm here. But there's never really any way to prepare for really hot weather.
Right.
I don't typically run very well in hot weather. But you know what? Again, I'm not racing this. And I think that's been the biggest mindset shift is if I'm running 12-minute miles, and that's what I have to run to get my mileage done and to be healthy every single day and be able to just get out there. And we have 8 hours that were allotted. I'd like to take 6 to 6.5 a day. When I'm out there, and it's fully supported. My husband and I are going to stay in hotels, but they have an RV that you can live in for the week. They have a car that meets you every 3 miles with food and hydration. If you need to maybe, Theragun out your muscles or roll them out a little bit. They try to not have you stop for more than 5 minutes on the side of the road by all the cornfields. But they've really got it down to a science. Ashley has really made this into something so small where, she wanted to raise $500,000, and I think she raised 56. 6, and now over 13 years, I think she's raised over $3 million.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
So talk
great.
about your fundraising.
So you have to raise a minimum of $10,000, but I really wanted. My first thought was, maybe I can raise $30,000 for the 30th anniversary, and I'm very competitive. And so when I asked Ashley, the most any individual donor had ever raised, or individual runner had raised, she had said 50. I think she said it was 56,000, and I said, well, my aunt would have been 67 years old, so maybe I can raise 67,000. So I'm trying to raise $67,000. I'm just under 40,000 right now, so I've made a pretty good dent, and I've got a couple more months to go. So maybe I should ask Dave for some tips on how to get the final 27K.
So what's obviously you must be doing exactly as Dave just said. Your motivation, your dangling carrot is I got to get there for this money. When you've run in the past, have there been those times where you said, I can't put that right foot's not going in front of the left?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. I had qualified for Boston in 2019. I had qualified in Sugarloaf for the 2020 marathon. Of course, we all know what happened. And something happened in that layoff in 2020 where my running just fell off a cliff. But I had still qualified for the one in October in 2021. And there were times when I just didn't want to do it anymore, where I was like, what am I running for? It's hard. I can't hit the paces I once hit. What is my purpose? What is the reason to run? And I just pushed through it and did it. It's my slowest marathon to date. But my now husband made it all worthwhile because he proposed to me the Friday before the marathon because he knew a bunch of my friends were coming in for it. And so I just stopped along the race and saw people and was like, oh my God, I know you never thought I'd get married because I'm so old, but I'm engaged. So that made it fun. You have to, running is mental. Running a lot of times is doing something you don't want to do on a cold, rainy morning or a hot day or a day where you're tired or you'd rather do something else. But doing this training for MS Run the US has reminded me why I love running. And now I'm thinking maybe next year I'll do the MS Run the US Speed Project, or maybe I'll think more about ultras or trail running, where maybe I don't have to run as fast as I used to, but still just there's something about being out there for long periods of time that for whatever reason, I love the torture.
Torture.
It can be torturous. You know it can be torturous at times.
Yeah, I think it can be torturous.
It can be torturous at times.
Yeah, well, what Dave says that he runs with quiet. He takes a voice recorder and he thinks through it. I'm not your voice box here.
That's okay.
I'm just sharing with Trenni. What do you do? How do you do it?
So I never race with music. Because I find that when you race with music, your feet it's just natural for your feet to go to the beat. So if you're trying to run steady splits, and I also love just running a race to feel the energy. I mean, the best part about running a Boston or a New York or Chicago or even a Sugarloaf, Maine, which is a fantastic small little marathon, is the people that are cheering you on. But when I'm training, I used to listen to music or podcasts. Now I've started listening to audiobooks. So I'm just ripping through books. I'm on, I think, my 7th or 8th audiobook listening. And now I can listen to a book while I'm running and then read a book before I go to bed at night. So I can kind of read 2 books simultaneously. And just getting caught up in the story kind of helps me, block out because I'm out there for a long time now. It's not like when I was training for Boston and you would go out and do a 10-mile run and you might be done in, 80 minutes, 75, 80 minutes. Now a 10-mile run takes me, I'm bad at math, but, an hour and a half or almost, hour and 45 minutes. So having that extra time out there, I don't mind it because I'm, listening to a great book. So if you have any recommendations, I'll take them.
We'll pass them along. Red Sox, they'll turn around, right? It's a long season.
It is a long season. It is. I know, but the Rafael Devers, that's got to worry you a little bit because he's out of shape.
Is it not because he's not playing in third?
Might be because he's cranky that he's not playing. He's cranky that he's not playing third.
It's a mental game.
DH.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I wonder his bat speed is off. So is that shoulder still bothering him? Did he not put in the work to rehab? I mean, I don't know what's going on, but that one does. I'm not.
But how long does Alex leave him in?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he'll be in the lineup tonight.
I mean, I could do what he's doing.
I think we all could.
I could go 0 for 19.
Yeah.
I'd be paid, well, how much?
300 million.
something.
Yeah, $300 plus million.
Right.
A year.
I'll take the 300 mil for...
You know what? I'll strike out 15 times for $100 million.
Yeah, but not a penny less.
Not a penny less. No.
Trenni, one more question. What do you think about the bats? What do you think about the Yankees
torpedo
bats?
Yeah.
So I'm a Brewers fan. Listen, I had never heard of them before, and I'm surprised that there's not a little bit more uproar about the fact that they have. I mean, it looks like a wiffle ball bat.
Of course,
like it's so thick in the middle.
It's real thick,
but apparently it meets all of the standards. So I guess if you can't beat them, join them.
That's
like everybody,
which is what's going to happen,
yeah.
right? You know, they actually, I heard them talking about it. It came from somebody over at MIT who came up with this idea.
It's
all
no
those smarty
different
pants.
than in our sport, we have the super shoes.
The plated
now,
shoes. Yeah,
the carbon plated shoes, and now all the records are going down.
Yep.
But there are standards, and certain shoes meet the standards. Other shoes don't, but the ones that
Listen,
do.
golf has gone through it.
It's all technology.
You know,
Same thing with triathlon, with the bikes and the cycling.
It's all technology.
I did my first half Ironman last year. The bikes at these things,
intimidating.
They can cost $20,000. It's incredible.
Hey, it has been so fun. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope this goes well, and I know it's going to.
Thank you.
I know
Thanks
it's
for
going
having me.
to. I cannot wait to hear what you raise. Tell everybody they'd like to donate, how they go
So
about
you
it.
can go, and I can get your, everybody, I have a QR code that's very easy, but if not, you can go to my Instagram page. It's very easy. It's right up in my bio.
Okay.
You just click it, and it takes you right to the page.
We'll link Carrigan and Company to that, and we'll make sure that people go right there and they give money.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And you can do like this, Dave.
There is a Starbucks right across. That's more likely.
I'll send you.
All right. Much more to come. This is Carrigan and Company. Well, we did it. We survived another New England winter. As the days get longer, it's time to plan ahead and think about landscape and outdoor lighting. My friends at Lucia Lighting and Design in Lynn can help you get your landscape and outdoor living spaces ready for summer. They'll work with you to plan a space that's well lit, comfortable, and secure. After all, outdoor lighting is like adding a room to your home. Get started by going to lucialighting.com and then make an appointment to visit their beautiful showroom in Lynn, Massachusetts. That's lucialighting.com. Celebrate inclusion and have a blast doing it at the Northeast Arc's annual Evening of Changing Lives Gala. I'm thrilled that I'll be returning to MC this event at Encore Boston Harbor. I hope you'll join me on Tuesday, April the 8th, to support an organization that helps people with disabilities live as fully included members of their community. The event features a cocktail reception and an inclusive fashion show. Visit ne-arc.org/gala to buy tickets and explore sponsorship opportunities. That's ne-arc.org/gala. This segment of Carrigan and Company is brought to you by Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater. Learn all about this year's shows at nsmt.org. Welcome back, everybody, to Carrigan and Company. Dave McGillivary is my co-host today, keeping me company.
I love this, being a co-host. I've never been a co-host in my life.
I think you're doing a great job.
Well,
I do want you to know.
Okay, I'll be back next week.
That'd be great. But maybe I'll have you and you just host.
I'm giving up my day job. You can direct the marathon.
God knows I can't do your day job. That is for sure. Listen, our next guest. Wow, how about this list of? We could be here for the next month listing off all of her accolades. But let me start with a few of them. She has run marathons in all 50 states. She has competed in 2 Ironman World Championships. She's going to have to tell me if I got this wrong. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records. In her spare time, she's created this little foundation where she helps high school students to get college equipment, or to get college scholarships. And she is getting ready to run again in the Boston Marathon. I mean, I don't know how many times she's run Boston. We're going to find out. This is Becca Pizzi, and it is so great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
And you're a local lady, and it's just terrific. Becca, I mean, honestly, you do have a list of accolades that's just unbelievable. You stand out in the sport for women, for sure.
Thank you.
What drives you? I'm going to ask you the same thing I've asked everybody. What drives you to run?
My daughter, she's 17 years old. I just want to show her that you can do anything you put your mind to if you believe in yourself. And I love to run and I love to travel. My dad took me to my first race when I was 6 years old, and I kept going.
Wow. There's had to have been times during that period that you thought, I've had enough of this. My body hurts. Enough is enough.
Yeah, running will chew you up and spit you out. It's a very tough sport. It's year-round. Living in New England, we race in all type of conditions. But I always find my why. Why am I out here? What's my reason?
You can find a why every time, huh?
Every time.
Really? So give me an example. What's the why sometimes?
Just like I coach the high school girls, and I want to set a good example for them at the Belmont High School and cross-country, indoor, and outdoor track. And I know that they look up to me, and as a coach, as a mom, as a friend, and I just show them when it gets sloppy and things start to fall apart, regroup, get organized, shake yourself up, and tomorrow's a better new day.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your greatest accomplishment?
Besides my 17-year-old daughter.
I understand that, by the way. I completely understand
that. Probably the 50 States Marathon journey has been an incredibly fun experience for me.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Where did it start? Did it start here with Boston? Where did it start?
I got my start at the Boston Marathon. My grandmother took me to Heartbreak Hill, and I got a high five from a runner going by, and I thought it was awesome the way it felt, and I knew that eventually someday I would run it. I ran my first Boston Marathon when I was 17 years old for Liberty Running Girls Club, and then I went to college, and after college I kind of started running a couple more out of states, and it was incredible. And I got serious about finishing the 50 states about 5 years ago, and I ran about 10 marathons a year until I finished.
I think your travel agent should get as much credit as you. How the heck do you find all these races and make yourself available?
Right.
It's one thing to run 26.2. It's another thing to find these races and be able to set a schedule to do it. I find that I could never do that myself, at least not now.
And so how did you do it? And what was the last one?
The last one was my favorite one. I finished Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and it was fairy tale ending. I had 50 friends come out to the finish line. Jackson Hole, Wyoming gave me bib number 50, and I won the race, and my daughter finished through the finish line with me. My husband and father were holding the finish line tape, and it was the best marathon I've ever run. It was in Jackson Hole. Was so beautiful and such an incredible race. It was really awesome.
Wow, that is incredible.
Friend Zdeno Jara was there too. Right?
I invited Z. I said, "Hey, you want to be one of the 50 that come out?" And he said I wouldn't miss it. And he PR'd at that marathon, and
he ran it.
It meant a lot to have him there. Coaches and family, friends, and
I'll bet.
Yoga instructors. Everybody was there. My whole world and team was there to support me.
And you've done so much, and so that speaks volumes about just how great it was for you. Zdeno, you trained him. You were the one who got him running marathons, right?
Well, Dave was. I called Dave. I said, look at his Strava. I got a phone call. I met with him for breakfast, and I looked at his Strava, and I said, you're already running 7 miles. What do you think about Boston Marathon? I know somebody that can help you. So I called Dave, and Dave was all in, and we decided to run for the marathon for our friends at Team Hoyt and raise over $33,000. That's his number. That was his goal. And it was so much fun to train him. It was the Zdeno Chara parade the entire day. It was really incredible, and he crushed it. He ran 3:38, which was awesome time, first marathon, and everybody, all ages, had his jerseys on, and we'd see a baby, we'd see an 80-year-old man, and it was an awesome day for him.
I think that goes to show that just about anybody can run a marathon, and this is why. Zdeno's about 6'9". Now, I both of you would say that you are in stature not that large. You're compact individuals, and that has to help with running. So the fact that he ran that, and he ran it in the time that he ran it, and it was his first go-round. First off, great trainers. Secondly, very athletic man. I mean, it had to have been a whole different gig watching him do it.
I think what I liked most about him is he's so coachable. So when you say something, a training plan or nutrition or anything, he would do to a T what you asked him to do.
Yeah.
It was funny when I was talking to him about running a marathon, I said, well, 25 years plus of playing NHL hockey, your legs must be destroyed in a sense. And he goes, no, when I was playing hockey, I was going from side to side, different muscle groups. When I'm running, you're going front and back, different muscle groups, different way of exercise, if you will. So it was almost like he had fresh legs,
Sure.
starting out at age 46 or whatever.
Right.
And, and he's the toughest guy on the planet Earth
Yeah.
to be able to do something like this. And he's run he's run 3:11. Mm-hmm. So he even improved his time by almost a half hour from his first Boston.
Wow. Well, congratulations to both of you for that feat, because that in and of itself is really amazing that you trained him to do that. 777. All right. Lucky sevens. I have got to, the two of you have got to talk about this. So that is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. You, Becca, first American woman to do it. You've done it twice. Just walk through, first off, the mindset, what would make you want to do that? And secondly, the logistics of how you do that.
So that's my favorite race. When I read about it, I was addicted to it. I was like, I have to run this race. I live in New England. We've run in all type of conditions, maybe not Antarctica. I don't know. I asked my parents, what do you think about this? And they were like, no, that sounds really dangerous. We don't support it. I called Dave. I said, what if I asked Dave McGillivary? Like, he could help us. And, and they said, ask anybody you want. They're not going to think that this is a good idea. So Dave was like, yeah, I would do that. If I was younger, I would do it.
Yeah, it's your fault, Dave.
So whenever I have a crazy idea, I sprint to Dave. I say, what do you think about this? Help me. And then when he was on board, he was like, if I was 10 years younger, I would absolutely do it. And I think it's a great idea. And I brought that email back to my parents, and they were like, okay, we support you. I think you're both crazy, which we are. And I think that and having an opportunity to wear USA gear and represent our country, to me, it was a no-brainer. So I thought, I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I worked out a plan and ran about.
So this is 2016. Mm-hmm. All right. So what did you have to do?
I was running 100 miles per week just to be sure that I could run the distance. And I would go to Montreal to test my cold weather gear for Antarctica, because we were running on a glacier on ice. So I wanted to be sure that I could run through cold weather, and I bought a sauna for sauna training for the hotter conditions. We're ranging in temperatures -10 to about 90 degrees. So
in 7 days.
In 7 days, crossing 16 time zones. So it was no joke, but it wasn't.
Okay, so logistically, how do you do that, kiddo? So you get up on the first day. Mm-hmm. Where?
Antarctica.
And you go out and you run 26 point whatever miles, right? And then you go directly to an airplane? Mm-hmm. And then where?
So Antarctica, and then we went to Chile.
We went to Cape Town, but you went to Chile.
Yeah, my first one was to Chile.
So you went to warm all the way. How long did it take you to fly?
We averaged about 12 hours of flying per continent.
You had to get there within, because you had 24 hours.
Yeah, we also averaged
12
hours per continent.
Okay, so you sleep on the plane. Mm-hmm. You get there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of us did.
Dave didn't sleep.
She did.
Cold.
I was going to wake her up like, this isn't fair. I couldn't sleep. And she's like, and I'm like, this isn't fair. I can't sleep.
Well, first of all, I can't believe you couldn't sleep. I'm so surprised that you didn't just knock out, because you've just run,
Me too.
So, in the cold, no less, right? So that's so miserable. And okay, then you run there.
Yeah. And then Miami.
Then Miami.
Nice to be in
okay,
Miami.
so that was a quickie. You could get maybe in a bed that night, right? Okay, super. And then?
Never a bed. We never saw a bed till the final day.
Okay, so I made that up.
Always the planes.
Yeah.
And then?
Madrid and Morocco were 2 marathons within 12 hours. So that was the one we really had to fight through.
Wow. Okay, and then? Dubai. All right.
Australia.
And then, oh my goodness, how far from Dubai to Australia? You were right at 12, right? Again,
13 hours, yeah.
13 hours. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then you did it twice.
I did.
What brought you back?
I'll tell you what brought me back. So Tom Brady's company, TB12, reached out and they said, hey, we heard what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing it again? We would like to train you. So I thought, absolutely. I would love to work out at TB12, be a peak performer for them. And I got all the pliability training and nutrition that I needed to run the race stronger and faster. And I remember Dave saying, I said, I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure. I was really, really stressed out. You can't come in second place with Tom Brady's help, right? So I thought, and he said, pressure
is a privilege.
Pressure is a privilege. And I thought that was the most awesome quote I ever heard in my life.
Yep. So you you did it.
I did it.
And quite well.
One again.
She won again. That is fantastic. So what's next for you? What do you do next? I mean, you've run 2 Ironman championships. What do you do next?
I got the opportunity to race direct the 777 and again reached out to Dave. I said, what do you think about this? I have my own 5K that I've race directed. It's coming on its 10th year. I love it. I love watching people cross the finish line. And we did this last January for the 777, and it was hard, as Dave knows, when the gun goes off and you're not running, and that's all you know. That was really, really hard, but very rewarding to help runners on their journey. We were 22 countries represented, so watching everybody cross the finish line one by one and putting their medals around the neck, there's no race that I could win that would top that feeling to help these runners.
Wow, that is fantastic. That's fantastic. So what's the future hold for you?
More Boston Marathons.
Yeah.
I'm running my 21st consecutive Boston Marathon. There's nothing I'd rather be doing on Patriots Day on behalf of Team Hoyt. You can always find me running the Boston Marathon. And I really, really love Ironmans. I'm addicted to the training. It's about 20 hours per week and run, bike, and swim. And I really enjoy pushing my body to the limits.
Sure, absolutely. Let me ask you something, and you can say this is none of your business, but do you make a living doing this?
I do. So I do a lot of motivational speaking throughout the world. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you found a way to take your passion and turn it into a living, and that's spectacular. And that I would say that probably is the legacy that you'll leave for your daughter the most, is that you can take a passion and you can make it a lifetime.
I hope so.
Yeah, that is really incredible. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What are you what's your goal for this year's Boston?
My goal is to PR, so I need sub 304. So anything faster than 304, I'll be happy with.
You haven't run it below, obviously, 3. So
Not
you
yet.
want it?
Not yet.
Is this the year?
I'm going to go for it.
Mother Nature's got to help you out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to do my dance. I have a private dance I do at home.
Please, do it twice every day. Do it every
I'll
day.
be doing my Mother Nature dance, and I'll be very anxious. We'll be watching really closely to see how you do. It's so good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Continued success. It's really impressive.
Thanks so much.
Dave, we're going to wrap things up here in just a second. This is Carrigan & Company.
Have you heard the news? Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater has announced their incredible lineup for the 2025 season. You won't want to miss the hit Broadway musical Waitress, The Wizard of Oz, Grease, Rent, and another Tony Award-winning musical that will be announced in February. Buy a subscription now so you'll be guaranteed great seats for all 5 shows. Go to nsmt.org for more details and to learn more about other shows happening at the North Shore Music Theater. Again, go to nsmt.org. Spring is sprung, and for many of us, that means finally coming out of hibernation. Soon, there'll be the graduation parties and the weddings to attend, so why not get your skin ready for all the fun right now? Our friends at Sienna Aesthetic Spa in Beverly have some great springtime specials. Buy 2 hydrofacials, and you'll get the second treatment half off. And if you book a Botox treatment after your facial, each Botox unit is only $11. Don't wait. Book your treatment today. Go to siennaesthetics.com. That's siennaesthetics.com. This segment of Carrigan & Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly.
Well, welcome back, everybody. It's that time when we wrap up the episode, and boy, has this been a fun one. Why do you run? I figured out, Dave. I think a lot of people run because they can. It sounds like, but more importantly, because I think people who are runners are driven. They're driven by the need to run. And obviously you run to clear your head. I love that Becca said she never wants to be alone with her thoughts, so she runs with other people always. And obviously, we learned from Trenni that she's running for a good cause. That's what makes it so.
Well, people ask me all the time, what do I do for a living? And I say, I'm a race director. They, a what? What's a race director? Chalk mark in the road, you'll go? I said, no. What I do is I help raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people in America. And that's literally what this is all about. When people ask me, what is the toughest part about running a marathon? Well, the toughest part is signing the application. Is having the guts to make the commitment and the courage. Then you sign the application, you work hard, you earn the right, you toe the line, you answer the gun, you run the course, you cross the finish line, you get a medal, magic happens. You go home feeling good about yourself.
Yeah,
and there's nothing more
absolutely.
powerful in the world than to feel good about yourself. It's the foundation by which we accomplish everything in our lives. That's why I think 100% of us are out there running is to feel good about ourselves. Nothing wrong with that.
And however you get out there to do it, good for you. It gets you out there.
Exactly.
We do this little thing called Fast Five. It's 5 questions. They're rapid fire, and we ask you to answer them in 30 seconds.
This is scary.
Or would
I'm
you-
going to get in trouble.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. If you could visit any place in the world, where would it be and why?
Egypt, I want to see the pyramids.
Besides running, what's your favorite sport?
Baseball, second base, Boston Red Sox.
Not just his favorite sport, but his favorite position as well. If you had to wear a T-shirt with one word on it for 1 year, what would that word be?
Accomplisher.
If you were to perform in the circus, what would you do?
Well, I'd probably be a clown. Because most people call me a clown.
And finally, what's your favorite cheat food?
Favorite food?
Favorite cheat food?
Oh, I don't really have a favorite one. Sorry, I blew it on that one, huh?
I think he's saying pass.
Okay, take a pass.
Very good. That was terrific. Listen, best of luck.
Thank you.
Best of luck. You, right now, are about to run your 53rd marathon, Boston Marathon. There's a record out there. It's held by Mr. Kelly. It's 58. You going to get there?
I finished the marathon at night probably 15 years ago now. And I went into the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, and who's standing in there but Johnny? And he looked at me and says, "What number is this?" And we were really good friends. I was a pallbearer at his funeral. And I said, "Oh, Mr. Kelly, it's like 40, whatever." And he goes, "You're going to break my record, and I'm not going to be alive to see it." I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and I almost, if I even do get there, out of respect for him, I almost want to get to 58, and that's it. Because he won it twice, second 7 times. There's no one ever, no matter who breaks his record, no one's ever going to be. He's my, if I have a hero in athletics, in sport, it's Johnny Kelly.
Maybe that should have been my 5th question. Who's your hero?
That's him.
Listen, this has been an incredible day together. Thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be around watching on that 58th run.
And I'm hoping my whole family
Oh, yeah.
will run.
Oh,
My whole family, and 2 of them have already run the marathon, 4 of them haven't. So I said, "You got 6 years to train."
Yep.
We'll see.
absolutely. Dave, thanks very much. Continued success and good luck in the Boston Marathon. The 21st of April this year, everybody. Be sure that you check it out. And thanks so much for being a part of Carrigan and Company. We're so glad you were here today. Be sure that you watch it on YouTube, and when you do, subscribe. Otherwise, follow us on social. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to Carrigan and Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Carrigan and Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Carrigan and Company is David Thompson. Our engineer is Peter Hurley, and our social media managers are Grace Carrigan, Colby Thompson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.